So who exactly were the Chichimecas? There is no straightforward answer to this question. Charlotte M. Grady said it best in her 1994 article that there were no Chichimeca people, ethnologically speaking. No group called themselves Chichimecas, but the Mexica used it to refer to their ancestors, as well as unconquered groups who lived north and west of Mexico Tenochtitlan. As a matter of fact, Chichimecas vary according to time and place. For example, during the 16th century, the Mexica and Spaniards used the term to describe native peoples in northern Mexico who they fought during the Chichimeca Wars that lasted from 1550 to 1590. These people, who were grouped into the umbrella category of Chichimecas, included but was not limited to the Pames, Guachichides, Otomís, Guamaris, Cocas, Tecuejes, Caxcanes, Zacatecos, the list goes on. Also, the term Chichimeca has been used to refer to migrants who came from Chicomostoc, the land of the Seven Caves, to settle the basin of Mexico during the 12th century, such as the Chalcas, Culhuas, Tepanecas, and the Aztecas, who would become the Mexica. The most familiar group is perhaps the Chichimecas led by Xolotl, who conquered the Toltec state. There are also the Huacusecha Chichimecas, who conquered and intermingled with the local Purepecha groups in Michoacán's Lake Pátzcuaro Basin. What this means is there was no group of people who called themselves Chichimecas. There were of course people like the Mexica and Huacucechas who said they descended from Chichimeca ancestors, but ultimately they did not see themselves as purely Chichimecas, just as their descendants. Now that we're on the subject of Chichimecas, let's dispel some stereotypes we have about so-called Chichimecas.
Let's use the Florentine Codex to dispel this myth that all so-called Chichimecas were what we would call today nomadic hunter-gatherers. And we'll see that not even the Nahuas had ascribed to these stereotypes of the Chichimecas in their times.
So for starters, we see that the Nahuas didn't even generalize them into one category. In the Florentine Codex, they describe three categories of so-called Chichimecas. There's the Otomí, the Tamime, and the Del Chichimeca, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, Caca Chichimeca. It says here the Otomí had a civilized life. The men wore capes, clothed themselves, wore breech clouts. Definitely not the hunter-gatherer groups that we describe Chichimecas as today. Probably the defining characteristic of a Chichimeca was that used the bow and arrow. So in this case, the category of Tamime. And even to the Mexica, the most stereotypical category of a Chichimeca was not one that lived in the desert. Here it says that they were also understood to live in grassy plains and in the forest. So were the Chichimecas really barbarians? Barbarians to who, though, is a better question. Thank you for pointing out this misconception. When we hear the word barbarian, we might think outsider, somebody who's not related to us by blood, someone from a culture that's not like ours. For the Spaniards, it probably was easier to consider the Chichimecas barbarians because they didn't even come from the same bloodlines. But for many groups like those in central Mexico, they actually saw the Chichimecas as their distant relatives. But again, keeping in mind that there was no ethnic Chichimecas. We see this also in the stories of the Purepecha ruling dynasty known as the Huacucechas. They claim to have descended from Chichimecas, and here even the chief priest known as the Petamuti, I don't know if I'm saying that right, is shown dressed in Chichimeca fashion. This is talked about in Dominique Elise Garcia's thesis. It's on Michoacán. Pause this and take a screenshot if you want to see it. She points out how the Chichimeca Tolteca priests were dressed like the Petamuti.